Okay, we had to rearrange the schedule a little bit. You guys don't know what the schedule is anyway, so I'm not even telling you. Our next speaker is going to be former Attorney General candidate Rob Owens. Maybe.
Oh, there he is. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sort of interesting as we stand here today. I need a license to wear my jacket. Take my jacket off, don't need a license anymore. I'm thrilled to point out that our representative from the 2nd District, Chris Jordan, I think Chris is speaking later today. Is Chris here? Not here yet? Chris is really doing a phenomenal job in the House. He is pushing hard for an Alaska-style concealed carry law. For those that aren't familiar with how things work in Alaska, essentially the deal is you need absolutely no license to carry open or concealed. However, if you'd like to get a license for reciprocity purposes and that suits you well, well, by golly, you can go ahead and get one. What I can assure you is that in the history of gun control, disarmament starts with gun regulation. That's how it starts, that is how it is always started, and we need to hold a firm line on this deal. Let me begin, however, by really extending a wonderful thank you to the leadership and the members of Ohioans for Concealed Carry. When I ran for Attorney General last year, the gun community was perhaps one of my strongest supporters, and really the event that we had last year was absolutely tremendous and wonderful. And I think some really phenomenal things came out of that. First of all, we were able to garner nearly 250,000 votes in the election to smash all records for independents running for executive office, and I think sent a major message to both parties that they have to shape up on the issues that are important to us, or else they're going to start having some real problems. And certainly that was the case with my Republican competitor that lost nearly $1 million in funding as a result of a fairly lukewarm message on guns. Also, in addition, we were able to expose on network TV the really rancid underbelly of funding in elections. And this is where our individual action becomes so important. When you have candidates that are strong on these issues, understand it's critical to support them. Organizations like Ohioans for Concealed Carry, it's absolutely critical that we support these organizations. This morning when I came in for the registration table, I renewed my dues to the organization, and if you haven't had an opportunity to do that yet or to join up in the first place, I'd strongly recommend that this is some of the best $25 that you can spend to help support this wonderful organization. In terms of some of the activity that we have had stemming from the organization, perhaps some of you remember the notorious name of Montford Will, and this is really how some of these campaign financing works on these issues. See, these guys give money to their in-laws and to their kids and to their friends, who then funnel the money back into the candidates. We were able to expose that on national TV or on network TV, and as a result, that yielded in the largest fine for election financing violations in the history of Ohio. So, individual action can be very substantive, very powerful, and it's really time that we get involved. In addition to Chris Jordan working on the Alaska-style gun bill, also point out that there is a strong movement for the 10th Amendment legislation. Is everybody here familiar with the bills coming through? This is absolutely outstanding stuff. We need to be behind that. We need to get going on it. There's a website called OhioFreeState.com, and I definitely commend that to your review and your action as well. Also, there's a significant movement throughout the nation to take on a law that has recently been passed in Montana. Everybody familiar with the Montana law? Right? This is outstanding. What Montana is saying is that if you manufacture guns in Montana for use by people in the state of Montana, and they're going to preempt all federal gun laws in terms of manufacturing, in terms of using sound suppressors, all of these things. This is really outstanding stuff. This is something that we're working on in Ohio now, and we'll continue to monitor the progress. This is an essential aspect of what's going on. Now, I'll tell you, there are some roadblocks. Surprisingly enough, there's a Supreme Court case out there in which a farmer wanted to go grow grain on his own farm to feed his animals, and the federal government came in and said, well, because you're growing grain on your farm might impact commerce, interstate commerce, because you're not otherwise buying grain from other places, we're going to shut you down and we're not going to allow you to grow grain on your own farm to feed your own animals. Or yourself, that's right. I mean, the federal intrusions on our privacy and our rights are outstanding. Now, the folks in Montana, I think, are very sharp on this. First of all, they found a little quirk in the law that says, hey, since with grain you couldn't really distinguish where it came from, we're going to stamp all of these guns made in Montana with made in Montana, so that we'll have a difference from this Supreme Court ruling. And also, as a test case, what they're doing is they're putting forward a manufacturer who's going to send a letter to the BATFE to say, we're going to manufacture a single-shot .22 rifle. And then let the federal government throw an objection over that. I got to tell you, as a lawyer, bad facts can make bad law. And the opportunity to put this before the court and before the public in the purview of a single-shot .22 rifle, this is a brilliant idea, and I think it's something that the rest of the nation will be watching very carefully, and something that, as it comes into Ohio, we need to get behind. But let's talk about the foundation of gun rights, and one of the most important things that we know about gun rights is that this is the teeth of the Constitution. That's how George Washington referred to gun rights. If we don't have our right to protect ourselves, to carry a gun, to protect ourselves both from crooks, your average crook, and the crooks in Washington, we're familiar with those guys, right? The rest of them doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. And so it's critical that we safeguard these rights with absolute steadfastness. Now, if some of you are familiar with a group called Jews for the Preservation of Firearm Ownership, they publish a wonderful book. I've got a book table over there. You can take a look at this afterward, called Lethal Laws, documenting the process by which civilians have been disarmed throughout the 20th century, right? And when we talk about Hitler in Germany, Stalin in Russia, Mao, Pol Pot, all these guys, right? This is how they got it done. They disarmed the civilian population. I can assure you, genocide has never, ever occurred in a free citizens that are armed. It's never happened. These laws absolutely have to be understood. Now, there's a question on how to fight them, and for that, and I appreciate the use of the term confrontational politics. And in fact, the owner or the founder of Gun Owners of America published a little book called Confrontational Politics. Anybody had a chance to read this book before? Well, it is truly outstanding, and it is exactly how we have to deal with these things. The author points out that compromise is great for if you and your wife are going to go to a movie, you want to see a shoot 'em up, she wants to see a love 'em up, and so you compromise with a laugh 'em up. Right? That's fine. That's compromise. Right? But on gun laws, on gun registration, on civilian disarmament, there can be absolutely no compromise. Never, at any point. Absolutely not. That is how free citizens become slaves. Always. That is the course of history. It is an immutable truth. We have to stay fast and be firm on these issues. And I commend you as well to Gun Owners of America from the national perspective. Now, there are some very significant issues facing the gun community, and I would suggest to you that the #1 issue for people in the gun rights community is sovereignty.